It's Heraldic Monday, and you know what that means. It's Skull here with Griffin Eye News, and Dame Arwen is here to talk heraldry and some misconceptions that exist in the world of heraldry.
Yes, misconceptions.
So, our questions of the day. So, can you have people or body parts like hands or feet or elbows as a charge?
You can have elements of people, hands and things. There are some hands that we need to watch for. There's a motif that's considered to be part of some hate literature, but it's few and far between. Actually, recently, in order to be acceptable for our diversity, equity, and inclusion, so our DEI initiatives, we've actually defined more things like fair haired versus brown skin versus brown, dark skin, and being able to define things even better than we historically have, um, to be able to have those body parts. Um, One of my friends actually had a hand that had a bird and he had a tree. And so what it was a play on a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right? So he had a tree for the two in the bush and a bird in the hand. So you can definitely use body parts from that perspective. Um, it's just a matter of making sure that it's not to be offensive, not just because of hate literature or anything else, but also, is it an acceptable piece of the body that would be considered to be acceptable for most people? Then then we can definitely do it. So hands and elbows and feet, definitely, for sure. And it's just a matter of working with your herald to decide whether or not those things meet those requirements.
Okay. So moving on to a slightly different armorial subject here. If I want to add a unicorn to my device, is that possible, or they cannot be registered because they're a mythical beast or they're just so cool everyone has one?
Well, there's lots of mythical beasts, and there's lots of mythical monsters. If you think about it, Fluffy is a mythical beast. Well, or at least a created monster. She's a griffin, which is a combination of a bunch of things, which makes Fluffy a monster. So a unicorn is still considered to be an acceptable piece of heraldry. It's a heraldic charge. There's nothing wrong with it. The struggle that a lot of people have is that unicorns have been used multiple times, but very much like a lot of other charges, it's a matter of what else do you put with it. Just so you know, His Excellency Jean has a unicorn on his device. Okay, so it got registered in the mid 90s, but in general, it's still an acceptable charge. Lots of things are very popular. Mythical beasts, probably not as popular as swords and daggers and rapiers. Every fighter, every rapier guy, and every person who thinks that they sort of fight wants to have a sword on their device. There's only like 6,582 devices with swords on them. I'd be more worried about putting a sword on your device versus putting a unicorn on it, because there's probably less unicorns than there are swords. So, mythical beasts? No. I mean, the only reason why Montengard doesn't have, why their boar has to be, why their bull's head is not a minotaur, is because it's the bull's head. And the problem is a minotaur is a bull on the top and it's a combination of a bull and a man, and that's how you make a minotaur. So if you only cut the head off and you make it a bull, that's why it's a bull's head. That's the reason why, their minotaur is a bull. But that doesn't mean that you can't use pieces of it. And even monsters from Greek you can use. So have some fun with it. Ask.
So could I blazon my device as a unicorn's hoof, or do I have to use it as a horse's hoof if there's nothing distinctly making it a unicorn?
It's more likely that it's going to be a horse hoof, because that's what most people are going to look at it and say it is.
Okay, well, that's fair.
Right? That's kind of the reason why the Minotaur's head is the same as a Minotaur's, same as a bull's head. And the problem is that if you ask someone who's not from Montengard, they're going to say that that's a bull's head.
Well, the Montengard motto would disagree, but
and that's why it is, because it's the conversation between the barony and the heralds.
Okay. So talking about other things that I might want to put on my device, if I'm not a knight, can I use an annulet on my device? Because an annulet is like a link in a chain, and only knights can use chains, right?
Knights can use what they call an oral or an annulet of change, which is all the way around your device, having a continuous string of chain. Okay. Or I can have a circle of chain. Okay. But we're talking about something that is very much like the knight's chain, like something that is continuous, has no end, has no start, and is continuous. There have been several squires and several non-squires and even non-fighters who have registered a section of chain. Okay, broken. So it has a start and has an end. So as long as the chain has a start and an end, it is not a circle, and it's not a continuous piece without a start or an end. And the start and the end is what's registered and reserved for those members of the chivalry who consider themselves knights. That doesn't mean that that's reserved for those who wish to be master of arms, which are members of the order of chivalry who choose not to swear fealty to the crown. But we're talking about those members who choose to be knights. So if you just want a circle, you're good with that too. No different than if you want some circles all linked together in a piece of chain, as long as the chain is not continuous and has no start and no end. That's reserved for our knights.
Okay. Well, that is some excellent food for thought. I want to thank you for your time this evening, Dame Arwen, and we'll catch you next week.
Absolutely.